tree right out of this wicked black and into bright sand, straight toward the warm sun and into his hand.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. This is Overpass Live. I'm Eric, I make apps. This is the weekly live stream where weekly. We haven't done it for like 3 weeks, but this is the weekly live stream where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. We hang out, we chat, we talk about technology, we talk about apps, we talk about, stuff. We talk about, the stuff that just gets us excited. So anyway, I just got back from Florida yesterday. So if you saw the video I put out yesterday, which I actually filmed in the week, and I was gonna when I went to the States last week I went to Florida just to visit family, and which was really, really nice. It was a beautiful week. But I've got no luggage today. American Airlines lost my luggage, but it should turn up later. It might turn up during this live stream and everything like that. But it was a great week. I bruised my ribs in boxing, which is so I've been in pain there because I was doing some sparring. I have a video of it too if you guys want to see it. If you want to see me just get my butt kicked a little bit. And other than that, just doing a lot of Xamarin stuff, a lot of the working on my own secret project at the moment, which I'm probably not going to make a bunch of videos about because of the whole earspy thing in the past. But it's been a really good week. I feel really rested, although I'm a bit jet lagged today because it was like last night, where it was yesterday morning when I got in. I'm still kind of, I'm a bit loopy. So if I seem like a bit off today, it's just because of that. And I hope you guys can hear me for those guys who showed up. So we didn't do a live stream 2 weeks ago because it was Valentine's Day on that Monday. And even though I didn't have any plans on Valentine's Day, I didn't want you guys to know I didn't have any plans on Valentine's Day. So I was thinking, well, we won't do one for Valentine's Day. And then last week I was in California, I wasn't in California, I was in Florida. So, I didn't do one then because I wasn't quite sure what my schedule would be and everything. So we're back. We're back today just to, dude, I missed you guys, man. How's it been? What you guys been up to? So anyway, thanks for everybody for showing up. Let's see who's here. iReality HK. Hey, how's it going? Let's make this a little bit bigger, shall we? Hi. Theo Taylor in the house. You got a new profile picture, Theo. Jeff, hola. Hey, what you said about the weather here in England. I did get the high winds and everything, that first storm that came through, but I missed the second one. And then Patrick, hey Patrick, how's it going? Release the boxing cut. Okay, I'll show it to you guys. Yeah, I'll show it to you because it's let me see if I can just find it here real quick. I've been showing it to everybody. I'll show you the bit where I got hit, which is really the let's see, it was here. I'll make this wide. I'm just going to share my screen here so you guys can see it. Let me clear all these notifications off there. Let's share the screen. Okay, so this is somebody I'd never because I've been going to boxing class for about a year now, and a lot of it's you're learning different blocks and stuff like that, and it's really cool. I really, really like it. And then of course at first we're in lockdown, so it was just heavy bag work, and you feel like a badass when you're on the heavy bag. But once I started getting into doing sparring and someone's hitting back, I just completely it's like I flinch and I look away. So I've been trying to go just get over that flinch response. I'm constantly hearing shouted from the side. Don't look away or whatever. I don't come back up to my block, and I just and I'll just go, and I'll just bam, bam, bam. So last Friday or the Friday after this, I was gonna do a video, but my nose was all bruised up and my ribs. So let me show you this. Let me show you this here real quick. It was about 1 minute. Hang on. Let's see. Go back to. Okay, so you guys, let me just make this full screen. So this is me, and it's about, and we're just he was a big guy, but he was hitting hard. Whenever anything landed, it really threw me, and I was thinking, dude, I'm this is where either I don't understand how sparring works. So, and it's right here where he gets me right in the ribs at right there, bam. And it was like, and so my ribs have like for the last couple weeks have just been killing me. And it's you know, I don't know if you guys have ever like bruised a rib before, because I never have. Like I've been talking to people and they've got like you know, whatever, broken a rib or whatever. And so I've just been like, so I feel stupid because I thought, you know, I'm getting really good at this. And it was like, boom. And I had to like stop, you know, for a few seconds. And then I continued because I was trying to be tough and everything. But then like after I got home, I was like, oh God. So anyway, it's fun. For those of you guys out there, it's nothing to do with technology, but like if you guys could get into doing this, it's so much fun. I'm like the softest person ever. When I went to these, when I first signed up, I was like, you know, I was never really into football or American football or rugby or obviously or like wrestling or anything like that. So I was never into any high contact sports. And if I get hit, I'm thinking, oh my God, I think it's probably broken. If I bang my shin on a coffee table, I think I broke my leg. Like that first split second, because I'm soft, right? I'm just not used to getting hit. So like that's one of the things I'm trying to get over is that whole, you know, be more manly thing. So anyway, it's a lot of fun for you guys to do it. So anyway, let's see. Juan says, "Hola, thank you for sharing important information about the app industry." Yeah, it's you know, a lot of the stuff I've been doing lately has been client work. So a lot of the videos that are out there, especially about AdMob and everything, they're quite a few years old. And I still make revenue from AdMob, but like when I share my revenue reports here on the live streams, it's not a lot like lately. It's like, you know, I don't know, it's like $20 a day, something like that. It's you know, I got my daily revenue reports, which get updated every day, but I kind of like, I don't look at them as frequently as I used to. But no, and a lot of times people will say, you should make more videos about AdMob. I'm like, I have nothing else to say. Like nothing's changed that much where I'm like, you know, need to do those. And like one of my New Year's resolutions this year was make 2 videos a week. And then I realized I'm getting back into the trap of I'm looking for something to do a video about. Whereas before it was like, I had so much I wanted to talk about and it was like, just do that kind of stuff. So a lot of that stuff's out there and I hope it helps Juan. So let's see. Patrick says, boxing gloves don't seem very heavy until you try boxing in them. I know. That was it. That for me, getting hit in the face the first time was like, just like wow, that doesn't hurt like with a boxing glove as much as I thought it was. But the amount of times, like the other night, that one, like this guy here, it was like bang, like I took so many frontal, like my nose was like, it was all red the next day. It looked like it was like basically sunburned, and then the next day afterwards it was all black and blue, and it didn't last very long, but it was like just you know it's kind of like just got my ass handed to me is really what happened. So you know, let's see Joe, Eric Balbo. Yeah, you got the poster was like for Christmas because I was getting into all this stuff and I'm really bad at it. It's kind of one of those things. I did a video a few weeks. You know, if you have to be willing to do something that you're really bad at. Dude, I'm really bad at that, like every week. Jeff says, Nasty, I broke a rib a year ago and was totally out of action. Yeah, I don't think it's broken because I don't know how to I didn't like, the thing is it happened like 2 days before I was traveling to the States. And I was like, I don't want to go see a doctor. I don't want to have a doctor tell me I can't go. And I started Googling it. And as you know, Jeff, it's like nothing you can really do about it. So, and I think it's just bruised, but it still hurts. And then I got to a point last week where I thought, I think I'm better. I think, it doesn't hurt like it did. But then I sneeze. If I sneeze, like the whole pain just shoots over my whole body. It's like, oh, so hopefully it doesn't happen during a live stream. Although it would be awesome for you guys to see that, but it wouldn't be good for me. So, but yeah, I never actually did that. And it sounds like every time I start mentioning to people, loads of people have had broken ribs and stuff, or even bruised ribs. And, I'm just, like I said, I'm soft. I'm like, I sit at a desk all day. When I'm just going to go off on this rant, but like right before I turned 40, 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, like today, I threw my back out. One of those, like if you guys have ever done it, where you're like, your lower back, and every time you take a walk, like you take a walk, you're like, oh God, it's like, and it's just that pain, even just to breathe. I had that. And that happened due to nothing, like just being sedentary. So like this, happens like, again, right before milestone birthday, like I turned 50 in July, and I'm thinking like, feel the same thing, and my son went on vacation with me, so he was like, he had to get all the bags out of the overhead bins and everything like that. So it was good that he was there with me, but I was a bit, it was a bit like, I definitely did not feel young and healthy on the trip. But Kevin, hey, how's it going, Kevin? Thanks for the Valentine's message. Let's see. I realized so courageous to share some insecurities there, dude, man. Well, we all have insecurities, don't we? That's one of those things. Like, imagine if we could all, like, if everybody was just able to be totally honest with each other. I mean, I don't share all my insecurities. I don't say but there's certain things where, like, when you start to mention certain things, like, everybody has the same things. And when it came to apps, that was the same thing too. Like, we talk about, like, a lot of the videos I did were about, like, just the insecurities of meeting with clients, especially when you hadn't done client work before and you're going in there trying to be, you're trying to be confident and like, I could definitely do this job. But at the same time, you're thinking, man, I hope I could do this job. And then it's only after you get through those insecurities that you get better at things. So, but yeah, that's definitely, Joe says Rocky Wroolie rolls off the tongue. Rocky Wroolie sounds like Rocky Road. So anyway, that was me, like, just being, and it was like going to the state. I was going to do a video from the Kennedy Space Center because it's kind of like tech. I mean, it's definitely technology, right? But it's like, it's, it's not really app related. So it's like, but it was all in all, it was a really good trip, and I was eager to get back to the gym today, just being back, because, dude, I ate loads. I just over there putting on weight, couldn't exercise. So I was eager to get back. And then I thought, no, I'm going to give it another week from doing any exercise. Maybe I'll go for a walk or something, just because I make sure it heals and everything like that. But it's, definitely. I might not do sparring again, or at least not for a while. Maybe I'll practice a bit more. Just because, and I've done sparring every week, and I've been like, and I think I learned a lot more from it. It's like putting yourself in that situation, because we do all the exercises and stuff, and that all. I love the boxing. It's a South Morton boxing gym. Like, I did the app for them, so they hired me to do the app for them. So they got all these videos on how to do stuff. It's a good app if you check it out, SMBC app. But it's when I started doing that, it was like, I felt really intimidated. But I mean, first time I ever went to a gym, like, you go in there and there's these big guys in there, and you're like, oh, but there's some, but there's also older guys in here, and there's also like people who are worse shaped than I am, so it makes you feel a bit better. But going into the boxing gym, it was like, dude, there's like a lot of really tough guys in here. Like, it's like, okay, just try to look like you know what you're doing, like, and I don't think there's a whole lot of computer programmers. Although I've met one app developer in one of the classes, which was kind of cool. So, but let's see. I realize this is absolutely right. Apavelli, how the hell are you? How are you? Are you learning any new frameworks? Any thoughts about Kotlin Multi-Platform? I did look at Kotlin Multi-Platform because somebody brought me a Kotlin project, and they wanted it done, and basically they gave me the code for iOS and Android. The Android was in Kotlin, and it was really well laid out. Like, it was like, I didn't want to rewrite the Kotlin code, but in the end, I basically just redid the whole thing in Xamarin Forms, because that was the quickest way, given my current skill set, to get that into cross-platform. But what I wanted to do was take an existing Android application and make that multi-platform, and it looked to be more complicated than I thought. So I kind of looked into it, but not enough to actually, you know what you're doing, where you're like, you're eating into a project's time, because you're exploring whether or not that will work, and then you get that, you get to that point of no return where you're like, okay, that's it. I'm either going down this route, or I'm going to like back out and try something else. And I backed out and tried something else. But how many of you guys out there are using Kotlin Multi-Platform? Because it sounds great. Like, when we talk about using cross-platform frameworks, the reason that we use cross-platform frameworks is because you can release to iOS and to Android. And there's a lot of developers out there, when we talk in the comments and stuff, that are just Android developers, and you're just missing out on a huge market. And I know that you've got the iOS, you got the, it used to be you had to have a Mac in order to do iOS development. Now I've seen a lot of people, you got Mac and Cloud, and they also got the Xcode Cloud, which I've never used, but it's one of these things I want to explore a little bit. I mean, I kind of jumped on the Mac bandwagon back in 2013, I think, just so I could compile the applications I had. And even though most of the development I was doing was like Windows development using C# and stuff like that. So, it's kind of a thing. So, let's see. Oliver sent to us, says, "Hi there. Just curious to know, how many languages do you know fluently? Which is your first?" I thought you had human languages. My first one is English. Are we talking about human languages or computer languages? So human languages, English, obviously, it's debatable. And then I went to school when I joined the Army. So I failed French in high school. I was not a very good student in high school. I failed a lot of classes. I went to summer school every year. So I failed French in high school. And then when I joined the Army, they gave me this test. It was called the DLAB, the Defense Language Aptitude and Battery Test. And they said, so they were giving it to everybody at the time. And they said I was good at learning languages. They said, you have a talent for languages. And I was like, well, I don't. I lived in San Diego. I didn't know any Spanish. Like, if it was, it's like, it was just there for the learning, and I didn't even learn it. And they sent me to school to learn Chinese Mandarin. So I spent a year in school learning Chinese Mandarin. After a couple of years of doing that job, after the year of school, and then after like a year or two of doing that job, there was a shortage of Vietnamese linguists, so I went back to school to learn Vietnamese. Now, my Vietnamese sucks. It was kind of strange because Chinese is, okay, this is my opinion, Chinese is easier to read, is easier to speak and listen to, but it's harder to write because you have the characters. Vietnamese is the opposite. I had such trouble listening to Vietnamese because the differences between the northern and the southern dialect was so strong. They say, what time is it? Or why did you go there? This is the one we kept drilled into my head. Why did you go there? I think it was in the south it was Saong di Lo Vai, and in the north it was Basil Mezazoi. I think it was I think it's what time is it? What time is it in the north is Basil Mezazoi. So you have this Z sound for the G's and the D's, I think. And for the southern it was a Bail Mayoi. And it was and for some reason that just threw me. But the nice thing about both Chinese and Vietnamese, and I'm sure lots of other Asian languages, they didn't have this whole masculine, feminine thing. Chinese is a very logical language, right? So that was that. Now, if you're talking about computer languages, I started off with Visual Basic. I learned Visual Basic 5 to begin with. And that was, I did a video about this years ago where it's the book that changed my life the most was Visual Basic 5 in 21 days. You see these books learn this language in 21 days. And that was one where I got it and I was reading it and that thing started to click. So I could actually do this. It was so easy that I could start to do the Visual Basic development. And then Visual Basic 6 came along. And then as you start to, you're hanging around other developers who are way better than you, and you're you want to up your game. So then you start learning about object-oriented development and how you properly lay out projects. Because if all of us, well, a lot of us, our first applications are just spaghetti code crazy. There's my first VB script I wrote was an automated script to do some moving data from one database to another. It was just one, there was not even any functions. It was just one long line of code. The thing was messy. It fell over all the time. And somebody else came in and he added functions to it. And it was oh, so that's why you use those. It was because you're just starting out. And then, and also, I didn't, why use local variables when global variables are just as good, right? And I'd have all these conflicts with variables and stuff like that, where you have a form, you go to the next form, clear down all these variables and reset all these variables because they're always in scope. And it was very inefficient. So then as you start to learn from other developers, especially working with other developers that are better than you, you get better and better at it. So that was VB was kind of my thing. And that's all the variations of it. So there's Visual Basic and then there's VB. I did a lot of VBA, which is using the scripting languages of Excel, Microsoft Office. So I did a lot of stuff with that. And then VB Script, either writing scripts that would run by Windows Scheduler or also scripts or just ASP pages. So ASP was kind of my thing, and and it gets a bad rap for being, because anybody could get into it. Kind of like I said, my first Visual Basic stuff. Some languages just get that bad rap because they're so easy to get into that people are just used to seeing terribly laid out code. But like when you start doing it with more professional developers who come in from different disciplines, they start adding things in there, and that was cool. And then of course after that, so if I'm blathering on, like let me know. But it's I meant programming languages. Yeah, cool. So coding. So so after that, it was like JavaScript was always there. Like JavaScript was like browser based. So Cold Fusion was one that I learned too. So Cold Fusion, which I actually took on a job where they were looking for an ASP developer, and once I started, they showed me the code, and it wasn't ASP. It was like Cold Fusion, and apparently their last developer told them that Cold Fusion was just as good as ASP. So I had to learn that just so I could figure out how this thing goes. Now Cold Fusion isn't around anymore, I don't think, and thank God. I mean, I was not a big fan of that. We use like Cold Fusion and Infragistics database, not Infragistics, Infologic. I can't remember the name of the database, but it was like this proprietary thing. So I went from ASP and SQL Server, and then after that, JavaScript was always there, but I did as much client side as I could. Like back in the early days, I was the kind of guy who would get the big book, like the JavaScript Bible. I read that thing. I can remember reading it on the weekends, and people say, I don't know how you could read that. It's so dry. But like you start to, back when nobody was using, whereas like you weren't doing so much stuff client side. It was like everything was posting back to the server all the time. You realize how much you could load everything up and do that. And then when Ajax came along with the XML HTTP stuff, that was like, that was kind of a game changer. And so there was that. And then getting into C# and doing a lot of C# stuff. I did a lot of stuff in Silverlight. So that was, I loved working with Silverlight. I'd never been a big fan of ASP.NET web forms, but the MVC framework, as that came out, it was like, oh, good, we're back to doing web again and not this weird, we're going to make web simpler for you. It's like back to I just want to do HTML. That's, I want to know what the browser sees. So there was that. And then when Node.js came out, I fell in love with Node.js and just doing JavaScript development, like just JavaScript development. Like, jQuery I was getting into jQuery, doing and Node.js on the server, and that was like back 2010, 2011, where it was just kind of coming out, and everybody was like, why on earth would anybody use JavaScript on the server? But it was cool. It was just, it was nice, the single-threadedness of it, the control you had over it. You didn't have this dependency on other things. You could run it locally just as well as you run it on the server. I love that. I've done a bit of PHP, but mostly I did a lot of PHP for a while, and I was never a fan of it. I never used like Cake PHP or Laravel or any of those frameworks. I just sort of like, if anything, I've done a lot of like tweaking WordPress plugins and stuff with it. After that, so the JavaScript was for a long time. And then when I started getting into mobile development, it was like, that's when I started learning, finally sitting down and learning Java. I took a Java course back in like 1999, never really used it until like the Android stuff came out. So I learned how that stuff worked. And then it was, and then we started, I hired some developers. They started making a game. They were using Corona SDK, and they just, in the end, it was me finishing it all. So it was like learning Lua and getting better at Lua. I'm not a big fan of Lua. It was too far removed from other languages that I'd work with. I like the curly bracket languages. I like the C#, Java, JavaScript type stuff. Even Swift, to a certain extent. I like they're different, and it kind of throws you a little bit, like when you're using it, because they're almost too similar. But then it's like they're just, you can just go from one to the other, and you can just read it. And I hate. So like I tried to get into Ruby on Rails, and I know that DHH, David Hanselheimer, can never remember it. He was like big on Ruby. He was in love with the Ruby language, and I was like, I admired, like I really liked his passion for it. So but I was like, dude, man, I don't like Ruby. Like, it was just too far removed. So Lua was a one, and then after that it was I still do a lot of stuff in C# with Xamarin. I'll do a little, mostly when it comes to Objective-C, it's really taking an existing application and kind of just tweaking it a little bit, and then trying to get into Swift. And it was like every time I start to really get into Swift, I'm thinking I'm just limiting myself to the one framework. So Kotlin's something I've never really gotten into, even though it's been around forever, and the multi-platform thing looks really good, but I haven't got into that. So that's it, I think. And that's not it. I mean, and then there's also the SQL stuff, SQL Server and MySQL, and we did so much stuff in stored procedures and SQL Server. So I don't know. I mean, so hopefully I'm just going on some sort of rant. Oh yeah, and then Flutter. Flutter was the other one. Like, so I've done a few applications in Flutter using Dart, and I do like doing that. I do love using Flutter, and I like the way it's just the fluid nature of it. I like the fact that it doesn't seem as clunky as, like, if I do a Xamarin Forms, it's like XML based. Well, it's, XAML is an XML based language, so a markup language, and it gets a bit like you feel like you're in these rigid structures, kind of like you are with HTML. Like, you're trying to, I just want to have a rounded corner on this, and eventually, like, you're able to, but at first you're not. So you do all this image splicing and stuff like that. And there's just something clunky about it. And I like the fact that the rendering engine of Flutter, I like the way that it just sort of, you basically could do whatever you want. And once you understand the basics of it, the rooting, when you go into a new framework, you got to figure out how the routing works, where the entry point is, how the page, the state of the pages and everything like that. So and I learned over time to not use so many stateful widgets if I don't have to, go stateless as much as possible, and then also being able to integrate those in with like the like revenue cat stuff like that. Like a lot of the things. So I work with so many developers where I'm just like, okay, you go work on this for me, but I've never felt comfortable giving a project to somebody that I didn't know how it worked, because a lot of times I got I'm kind of I might be the one finishing it off, or the client might come back and say, oh, we just want this small little change, like, it's not worth getting somebody else to do it and writing up a spec and everything like that. A lot of times it's like, I could do this myself. So it's when I do take on projects on my own, that's when I start to really learn this kind of stuff. Currently, I'm working on a project in Xamarin Forms, and I'm using, because I've always used Angular as the admin site for the websites. I'm just tired of Angular. I'm tired of, so I started using Blazor, using client-side Blazor, WASM, and that's something that, I don't know. I mean, I like the fact that I'm in C# again, but it's kind of clunky, because I'm like, I keep having to write JavaScript bridges for like the Firestore APIs and stuff like that. Okay, is this? I've really been going off on one here. But does that answer your question on coding? Sorry, I meant programming languages. Let's see. I've been learning Flutter. I still like native app development more. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. And there's one thing, like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, like one of the things. So, there was Ionic too. I was big into Ionic for like a long time, and that was like using the web view, and some of my most popular videos were talking about like things I didn't like about Ionic, and people lost their minds. I got so many hateful comments about, oh, you're just doing like, Ionic's a great language, and it was. I did like using Ionic. It's not really a language; it's a framework, based on Cordova, but I did like doing that. My big problem was the white screen of death, where you had something fail on Ionic and it didn't even register in crash logs, because it just happened in the browser, and if you didn't write it properly, you would never find out about those failures. But so that's something that, I'm not a big fan of that anymore. Patrick said the Kotlin Multi-Platform, still need separate code for the UI in each platform? Yeah, that's what I thought. But then because I thought, and this is what my thing was with taking the existing project, was to be like, I'd have to like restructure the entire project so that I moved all the UI out, like, because the previous developers were just thinking Android, so they're like, why would they separate the UI for that? But let's see, AIO all in one. AIO all in one. I like the way you have the acronym followed by the whole thing. Any suggestions for youngsters like me who is willing to start to start a startup software company, I would think the first thing to do is, well, see if you can get any clients. Because if you can't get any clients, you probably shouldn't start one. It's one of those, you don't set up. I've always been in the camp of find out if there's a market first and then jump in. Because if you can't, like, and that's sometimes I might mean, you do set up a quick website, just so see if there's something, set up a quick website, reach out to a few people, see if there's anybody interested. Because if there isn't, then you save yourself a lot of time and money by doing that. And then you can start to see like what niches are there. If you're going to be like just a general software company, like this doofus here, like, you're basically competing with loads of people who do the same thing. So the more niche you can get, the better. If you create your own applications, then that's good too, because it gives you a portfolio, something you actually show people the kind of stuff that you do, but also hopefully it makes some revenue too. So, but yeah, I think that, let's see. Rachel says, where do you see the future of app languages like Flutter? I don't know. Like, I'm wondering whether or not we're going to get any more like that. It seemed like for a long time with JavaScript, we kept getting these like new framework. Like for a while, it seemed like we're getting a new JavaScript framework every week. It was going crazy. Like it's like big, like cryptocurrency. Like anybody, there's a new one out. And so, but I don't see that really happening. And I think languages like Flutter, the fact that they're going to be, it's going to be desktop, and basically a lot of these things are, they're not just mobile anymore. They're, and you see this trend with everywhere. It's like, that's not enough. Like when we talked for years, like a few years ago, we're talking about our apps dead. People are downloading apps less and less all the time, and now you got all these frameworks where you could just, it's cross-platform, but we're not talking about iOS and Android. We're talking about web, and we're talking about desktop and everything too. So, and it seems like more things are going that way. And that's, even like Xamarin with a .NET MAUI that's supposed to come out in Q2 this year is going to be started supporting more desktop development and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that because I have this question all the time, like, we're doing the Android and the iOS app, and they're like, then like we're midway through development. They're like, okay, how can I install this on Windows? You're like, well, you can't. I mean, I guess, and you could say, well, you can go to Windows 11 and all that stuff. I mean, it's kind of on the horizon, like, but it's like, they're basically, they just think that code is code and you should be able to run it wherever. And I think it's getting more that way. So I think the thing about Flutter was like, learning it was like, okay, I don't really want to learn this new language, Dart, which I don't use for anything else. But then once I started getting into it, it was better because it was compiled, it was more purpose built. I was so, with Ionic and even with React Native, I mean, I'm just looking for this JavaScript framework because I love working with JavaScript. And I was looking for something that would just be really fast on all of them. But Flutter seemed to kind of like really do that for me. React Native is, again, another language which I dabbled with a little bit, but I've never really been a full-on convert of React Native. But I know there's so many people out there who are. I met a guy a few weeks ago who's like, he's a React Native developer, and it's so obviously it's got some power to it. Let's see. Oliver says, really appreciate your sharing your learning history, Eric. Thanks, dude. It might sound like it's a lot, but it's not, because I've been doing it for 20. So I started in software in '98, and I was 25. So I guess I've been. We're gonna get up to 25 years here soon. Let's see. iReality says, if your son into mobile, which would you recommend, mobile games or apps? It depends on what what he was interested in, because I would think apps are, I don't know, I like working with apps. But I'm not a gamer. So, and I know it's hard to really get successful with games because so many people are doing it. But that doesn't necessarily, it's the video the other day, it's all about what's going to get you to sit down and actually work on this thing. If you're if you're not interested in it yourself, then you're just, you might as well just be a SharePoint developer. There's money in SharePoint development, but you're just, you just put on your blue shirt and your tan chinos and you go to the office and do that SharePoint development and just, oh my God. Apologies to all SharePoint developers. Not for what I just said, the fact that you're SharePoint developers. That's what I apologize for. I feel really bad for you. But it's got to be something that you're interested in. So like even if you're doing a job for a client or you're working in an office, if it's something like you're like, oh, this is going to be really cool. Like I've always been really well compensated for the work that I do, not just because I have the skills, but I've also have the enthusiasm for it. Like, how could we make this better? How could this be even better? And if you're doing something you're just not that into because you think this is going to be the most profitable thing, then you're just not gonna do very well. A lot of frameworks, a lot of software out there, you could tell it's done by someone who's just uninspired and they're just doing the bare minimum. Like they're just, it works, right? And you can tell one that's like where the developer is leading the design because for whatever reason, it doesn't quite make sense. A good example of that is like, it used to be like for a long time, you'd see a lot of applications which were like, we all know CRUD functions, right? Create, read, update, delete, right? So we all, when we do like object models or whatever, we do a service class, a lot of times we're just taking those CRUD methods. But a lot of that, like sometimes the interface is like that, okay, the list, you got the list, you click on the list, it opens up the item, you click on edit, it goes to edit, then you go to, and you have a delete button, and that's just it, and it's just that, and it's like not really very interesting because it's just, basically, you could pretty much tell what the database design is like just by looking at the interface. So to me, I think the advice I would get mobile games or apps would be like, what are they into? Like what is the most fun to work on? I like doing game development because it's like, when I was doing it, it was like, wow, I love the way that this works. I love the fact that, I'm rerunning it again and again and again. And, doing, I don't know if you guys, there's probably better ways of doing this, but like you're working on one level and you got to write your scaffolding code in there. So you're not like, so you can actually test that level only. Like I just need to work on this one level and not have to get through 5 other levels to get to it. So you put in this debug code, which just bypasses everything, goes straight to that level. And then you end up accidentally releasing that. It's never happened to me, but let's see. Vikash says, I am an individual Android developer. Okay, because if you're a group of Android developers, I'd be concerned. Should I represent myself as an individual or as a company when publishing app to the Google Play Store? Because Google, I don't think, I think on Apple, you have to show who you are. And I think on Google Play, you just change to whoever you are. I think I like doing it as a company. Like, even if I didn't have a company, I think I would do it as, whatever your last name, Vikash Apps or something like that, if you can't think of anything better. But I just think that building that brand early on is better. If you're using it as a, even if you had a CV or something like that, it's like, whenever I see it as something as an individual developer, I always think, okay, this is just one guy working on it. And where you could represent yourself as being a company, right? It just because you don't have to set up a company in order to have a trading as company. If you read the rules of it, you can have the sole proprietorships, and I guess probably every country has their own rules, but you could just say I'm just a sole proprietor, I'm trading as this name, that, to me that makes sense. And that's the way that I've always done it. The reason that Overpass is called Overpass, and again, there's another Overpass now. Overpass.com was bought by some company that said something that's very similar to what I did, what I was doing, and I kind of wish that I'd bought that domain back in the day. And Overpass is not that unique a name, but at the time it was to me. In my circles, it was okay, nobody has this name. There's there's a band in Australia. There's loads of stuff, and there's loads of, but the reason I call it Overpass and not Eric Wroolie Apps or Wroolie Technology, it was going to be Wroolie Technologies, because I thought that would be cool. But then I thought, I don't know, especially when everyone was getting into their self-promotion and everything, you see somebody, a YouTube video by someone said, hey, this is Bob Johnson from Bob Johnson Enterprises. You're like, dude, it's just you, isn't it? It's all again, okay, if I say Overpass, and it sounds like it could be more people, it could just be me. So that's, especially starting out. And I would use the royal we a lot, when you're just starting off. But it's not like you don't have a company. It's that's the company you're going to build, right? I don't think you're defrauding anybody. You're just saying, there's a lot of one-person companies out there, and it doesn't mean you have to set up a limited company or anything like that. At least not initially. Am I talking too fast? Let's see. Jeff says, Eric, have you tried many SM frameworks for marketing ads? Do they all cost around the similar social media? Sorry. Do they all cost around a similar amount? Thinking of TikTok, I might reach a younger audience. I've never tried TikTok. I've tried Instagram and Facebook and the YouTube ones and the universal ad campaigns. And no, I think they're all kind of different. It's because ultimately you put your bid down, and what you're looking for is how many times that the ads actually serve. So if you put and I always put like a low bid, and if you do a low bid and you get no impressions, then you're like, oh, that's obviously too low because other people are bidding more and they're getting that space. Then you need to increase your bid price. If you do start getting impressions and you're getting lots of impressions and no clicks, then that's at the point where you think, okay, that doesn't mean you need to increase the bid price. That means you need to look at your ad. So it's obviously people are seeing it, but they're not clicking on it for whatever reason. And that's the kind of thing where you're thinking, I always say this, you don't want to have like a huge ad budget to begin with, because you're basically doing, it's like you're testing the pipes. You're setting everything up and you're turning the water on just a little bit to see if there's any leaks, So you're saying, is it actually people actually seeing it? If they're seeing it, are they actually clicking on it? If they're not clicking on it, then you need to work on your ad, because you want that to be like, you want your click-through rate to be as good as possible. And then when you start getting the click-through rates, and again, all the way through, not just the, do you get the impressions? Are you getting the impressions in the right place? Are they clicking on it? And if they're clicking on it, the ad sucks, or your targeting sucks, or something about it is just not, it's not landing. So you don't want to put a bunch of money into it. Then you want to turn it on just a little bit to see if it's working. And then if they're actually clicking on the ad and they're going to the Play Store or the App Store, and they're not actually downloading the app, then you got to think, oh, what about my screenshots? What about something was compelling in the ad that made them go to this, but when they're getting there, something's stopping them from actually making that download decision. So then you try to fix that up, and you're still just spending as little as possible. And then when you get those numbers up on a small scale, then you can start to increase that bid price and start to push more money into it, so that you actually have the full working machine that just hopefully should just run, and then you start to see what your cost per acquisition actually is, and your cost per acquisition will hopefully be less than because that's really what it is. It's not the ad price, is the cost per acquisition. But in order to get that, you actually need to have the full cycle. On Facebook ads, it's nice because you could install the Facebook SDK and do the full app tracking that way. But I think you can in Google Analytics too. Actually, you could set the UTM numbers up through your web links, so you can actually see that campaign and see what's working, what's not. But yeah, I've not tried TikTok ads. It's like TikTok is so not my thing. L, hey, how's it going, L? When do you think it's time to change the app name from less keywords to competitive to a more competitive one? And when do you know? And when you do that, do you lose your previous keyword rankings? You probably would, because what you're trying to do is get those people in, and the more it's like a snowball. The more reviews you get, the more people are downloading it, and if they're using the keywords in the reviews, then that's helping you, especially on Google Play. And it's you don't want to change everything completely where the app is complete. I've had Apple reject an app because the keywords, the title on the App Store was completely different than the app, the app title. So I had to change that. So there's that kind of, I was talking about the subtitle thing, trying to put those keywords in there. And I would never do something where I totally change the title completely. I would just sort of, change the keywords around the title, kind of like the subtitle, colon and stuff like that. But I think you should do it. I mean, I would wait a few weeks each time, check the App Annie stats to see when you make a change, if anything's actually changed on it. Because you're starting if you're starting, well, as we all are, we're starting with 0 users. So you have no downloads, no reviews, and they're just basically, if all things being equal, the keywords are helping the rank. So I would think, change it, and then, but don't change it like daily. Change it like, every few weeks. Let's see. Juan says, what do you think about Flappy Bird app making 50,000 per day? The app was made by one developer. I know, it was awesome. Wasn't it weird, that story? Like, that app really took off. And after that, client work really took off, because I would get calls from people like, okay, I've got this app idea. It's like Flappy Birds, but with better graphics, because Flappy Birds has terrible graphics. You're like, dude, it's like, it was like, that was my brilliant idea. It was like, it's like, it wasn't about the graphics. It was about the gameplay. And it was like, and it was, so like loads is like Flappy Birds made. I remember seeing this interview with a guy who was like he was like an actual game developer. He talked about like mobile games were like, that's not a game. That's like just, whatever. So, but like a lot of things followed in that way. So it was weird, that guy, because he was getting people were leaving him like reviews and messages saying like, I lost 5 hours of my time because I've been addicted to your game. And so in the end, he removed it from the App Store, and then everyone just started trying to fill that void. Like everyone was all like, I have no scruples. I'll just, jump in there. And I knew a guy who was, so I was in this mastermind group with other app developers, and they were like, kind of, I'm my factory. Again, this is like the way we used to think back then. Like this is when Apple started rejecting apps because of people like him, and maybe me to an extent, where we started going like, he was like saying he was releasing 10 Flappy Bird clones a day. Like it was just like he had people just reskinning the thing. So he's just like doing 10 a day for, I don't know, at least 3 weeks or something like that. It was like, that's what people were doing, and it was like, it just went a bit crazy. But that one guy, left everything. So, or that one guy just removed it. So All in One says, love from India. Where can I find clients and investors for a startup? When it comes to investors, I've never found investors. I've had people, I don't know. I've got so many clients that come to me, and they're like, when I give a ballpark, they say, oh yeah, no, that's fine. That sounds reasonable. And then when we actually sit down and start doing stuff, just like, I'm going to do a Kickstarter campaign. It's like, okay, well, you don't have the funds now. And it becomes, help me set up the Kickstarter campaign. It's like, no, that's not my job. My job is not, your job is to get the finances and get the investors or whatever. To me, if somebody was to come to me and say, will you invest in my app? My answer would almost definitely be no, just because I know how hard it is to get an app out there and get people to use it. If they came to me and said, invest in my app, I've already got this group of users, I've already got this funding coming from here, then like if they do some sort of like pre-work, right, then that would be it. So like a lot of times we get this a lot as developers. You got your friend with the idea, and it's like, I got this idea, I'll tell you what, you do all the code, I provide the ideas, and then 50-50, we split it. And he thinks he's doing you a favor by the 50-50, right? You're thinking, dude, I'm doing all the work, and all you've got is an idea. You've got no marketing skills. You've got no, you're bringing nothing to the table but the Uber for babysitters, or okay, you ready? Ready for my idea? A chicken feed app where you track how much feed you give to your chickens every day. Do you know how many poultry farmers there are in the world? I don't either, but there's probably lots. So they'll just give you this idea, like you're supposed to go, dude, where are you getting this stuff, man? And you're like, dude, we all have ideas. It's it's the developer actually sits down and works on these things, which is very negative of me to say. Jeff says, thanks, Eric. Hey, no problem. MD, hey, how's it going, MD? It says, Eric, what do you think about Google stopping YouTube monetization from Russia Today channel? I haven't read that. Things are kicking off. I don't want to get like political here, but I'm gonna. No, yeah, things are really kicking off. I'm kind of wondering how that's going to affect us, in long term. I mean, like I said, I'm older, a child of the 80s, like the things that scare you, like about, nuclear war and everything like that, scaring me again now. So, but, I don't know. I'm not going to weigh in. I don't have any opinion on that, to be honest with you, because I haven't read the story. Like, I'm just sort of, it's one of those things where you're like, I probably should be paying more attention to this, but like you get into that, it's that fine line between this is affecting me, because it's going to affect all of us. And, or, you slip into tragedy porn where you're like, I can't take my eyes off this, because, and I'm watching the news 24/7, and, so I'm trying not to get into that. So, what did the rest of you guys think about that? DJ Snoozy, I always get it wrong. DJ Snoopy Zat, the poet. Hey, Eric, how are you? I'm doing really good, thanks. How do you convince users to pay for a service offered by an app? You keep showing them this. I mean, that's the same as with anything else. You got to the nice thing about in-app purchases and subscriptions is if you can get them into your app, then you have this audience that's already using it. They already believe in what your app does. They already, they've already taken the time to invest in it. Like, you've done the hard part already. Now you got to do is get them to just, convince them that, it's even better with this new service. Like, and, don't, like, I used to have this pet peeve as a developer when I would have we release a website or whatever, and the manager would say, okay, I want you to have the button on there, but I want it to be grayed out for like normal users, and admin users can click on it. I'm thinking, how about we just don't show the button to non-admin users? He goes, no, because we want a consistent interface. So we'd have this button that no one could use except for a few people, but everyone gets to see it all the time. And I thought that was annoying. I thought as a developer, I thought it was just mean. Like, why would you put something there that nobody could use, or like they would never be able to use it unless it became a manager? And it's like, but they won't become a manager, like, unless we're incentivizing them becoming a manager. Is the opposite when it comes to do your application. You want to have that button there. You want to constantly be reminding them that there's a service there. Like there's, they don't have the full version of the app, but they could always make that purchase, right? And once they make that purchase, then that little reminder goes away, or it's always, there. So, and that was a mistake I made early on, which is putting the in-app purchases like in the side menu rather than like on the front page of the application. So like, some people never even ventured that far to find out anything about it. So you want to put that in front of them all the time. Let's see. AOI all at once says, I really loved your suggestion for me. I'm a developer. By the way, thanks a lot. No problem. Yep. Cool. Cool. I think that's the end of the questions. Like, so we've got to an hour. Hey, I didn't even say this. Thanks everybody for liking, for the people who liked the video so far. And Drew says, testimonials, reviews, 100% refund if not satisfied kind of thing might work. Yeah, way better answer than the answer I gave. Thanks, Drew. Cool. Everybody, hey, we're going to end it here. Hopefully my luggage is going to show up pretty soon, so I need to get ready to, get that. And I hope you guys having a really good week. I'll try to get a video out for tomorrow. And, well, maybe not. I'm still, we'll do a video when I can think of something to write about. Oh, I'm reading this new book, UX Design, Laws of UX Design, which is really good. I might do a few videos on that, like the Fitts Law and all these other kind of things. You have to read some of those kind of stuff. It's from O'Reilly, really good. Let's see. And finally, just Merrick says, does Google allow you have a link to Patreon in app? I don't know. I've never tried that. So it would probably rely on it'd probably be more the terms and conditions of Patreon. So yeah, I don't know, because you're basically going to be unlocking things in another thing that's not your application. It's kind of a weird way to do it. Actually, yeah, no, you're right, because that technically would be an in-app purchase, wouldn't it? So they might do. So anyway, hey everybody. So thanks for joining the live stream. I hope you guys stay healthy, stay safe. We'll do this again next week, and I'll talk to you guys later. See you later. Bye.
Winterland, tell me all your secrets. Fill me in on your wildest moments. Colored trees, your yellow